In many organizations, there's a familiar rhythm. Performance reviews happen, feedback sessions are held, and surveys go out. And yet, despite all this activity, the same core problems seem to show up again and again, year after year. We tend to assume that these processes are there to create improvement, but the fact that so little changes suggests that the system itself might be structured to do something else entirely. To really get why, we have to look at how the organizational system is actually working. On paper, the idea of feedback is very simple. It's designed to be a self-correcting mechanism, helping a system adjust its path.
At its most basic level, feedback is just information. It's data that describes the gap between where things are and where they should be. The whole point is to use that data to close the gap, allowing for an adjustment.
Ideally, this works as a simple, continuous loop. Someone takes an action, we observe the outcome, information about that outcome gets sent back, and then the next action is adjusted based on that new information. The whole cycle is supposed to guide the system toward a goal, kind of like how a thermostat uses temperature information to turn a furnace on or off.
But this ideal process often starts to break down at the very first step, the quality of the information itself. The data that enters the loop is often not as clean or objective as the system pretends it is.
While the goal is to get objective information about performance, what people actually provide is often a strategic signal. It's information that's been shaped and even distorted by the pressures inside the organization.
So, what causes this distortion? Well, think about this situation. People are asked to be both a supportive peer and an impartial judge at the same time, which is a clear conflict. Their motivation might not be to give accurate data, but to give ratings that either help or harm a colleague's career. Then you have personal relationships and unconscious biases influencing things. And sometimes it's just a genuine disagreement. There isn't one correct view of performance. When everyone is both evaluating and being evaluated, the data naturally becomes strategic.
The next breakdown point happens with the person receiving the feedback. And this, too, is a direct result of how the system is designed. In most companies, feedback is not neutral information. It's tied directly to performance reviews, to raises, to promotions. Because of that link, the feedback stops being just data about a task. It becomes a powerful signal about a person's value, their job security, and their social standing inside the group. It feels like a judgment of them as a person. And when anyone perceives a threat to their social standing, a defensive response is almost guaranteed. That might look like arguing against the feedback, or it could be withdrawing from the conversation, or even just freezing up. This isn't a personal failing. It's a completely predictable reaction when a person feels threatened. But let's imagine, just for a moment, that the data was perfect and it was received without any defensiveness at all. Even in that ideal scenario, there's still another major problem. The organization itself often resists meaningful change. Organizations are usually structured to be very good at one thing, correcting actions to stay on track with existing goals. They're great at fixing errors within the current rules. What they are not so good at is questioning the rules themselves, or the underlying goals of their work. So what happens to all the feedback that gets collected? Well, a good portion of it might lead to some minor, small-scale corrections. An even bigger portion is simply collected, documented, and then effectively ignored. And an absolutely tiny sliver of it ever leads to any real fundamental change in policies, processes, or strategy. When people go through this cycle over and over, giving their input, seeing it get collected, and then watching as nothing really changes, it has a predictable effect. They tend to just disengage. They stop offering meaningful feedback because the system has shown them it doesn't lead to meaningful change. The fact that a system that's so poor at creating improvement continues to exist suggests something important. It suggests the system might be optimized for a completely different purpose, not for genuine learning. So if the goal isn't really improvement, what is it? The resilience of these feedback systems tells us they must be succeeding at achieving some other objective. And here's what it is. The system is often optimizing for predictability and the appearance of management. A formal feedback process creates a documented, consistent administrative ritual. It demonstrates that managers are taking action, it helps manage legal risks, and it reinforces the existing company hierarchy. And it accomplishes all of this whether or not performance ever actually improves. So from this point of view, the system isn't failing at all. It's actually succeeding at being a stable, predictable tool for managing people. The core trade-off is that this procedural stability is being prioritized over the genuine learning and adaptation the feedback process was supposedly designed to create.